Hello guys, in this video I'm going to be teaching you how to make this Dakila bracelet, and Dakila in the Tagalog language means great, eminent, majestic, noble. And this is what the bracelet looks like. I almost named this the Fruit Loop bracelet, but I went on YouTube and I found that someone had already named their bracelet Fruit Loop, and a couple of other bracelets had that similar name. It was Claire's Wares, by the way, who named one of her bracelets Fruit Loop. But anyways, this is my own design and it's a hook only design. And before we get into making this bracelet, I decided that I wanted to change how I do things a bit here. I'm gonna be changing the format of these tutorial videos. I decided to go less formal, and so that I could be pushing out more videos, I'm going to be editing them less, kind of putting less production to them so I can get some more videos out for you guys. With that being said, let's get started. Let's use this as a reference. I'm going to be using rainbow and white. So and how I'm going to do that, the white right here, that's where I'm going to be doing the rainbow, and then for the border here will be white. So obviously you need to start with a cap band, and we are going to be starting off with a 12 loop setup. So just pull one band through the cap band and pick up one of the parts of that cap band and place the band you pulled through, or reattach the band you pulled, the other side of that band you pulled through back on your hook, and then pull a band through the first two bands, skip the first band and pick up the outside loop. Next band, pull it through the first two bands, skip the first band, pick up the outside loop and reattach, and just keep going. Okay, so next, you guys probably can't see it, but there's a band that is holding this side and this side together, and apparently I used white for this one. So I think I'm just gonna use and I'm gonna be using white as well. It doesn't really matter what color you choose for this because it's not really noticeable, like you can't really see it. So you want to pull this band through the first 12 bands, skip the first two bands and pick up the 4 in the middle, skip the next two bands and pick up your border bands, and then obviously pick up your border bands on the outside. You want to rearrange. So you got your band like that. Next, what you want to do is take the third band, or the band that you just attached, and you want to drop it over your hook Same with the other side. You want to drop the third band up and over your hook. Okay, next, this is when I'm going to be starting my rainbow colors. Red first. So we're on this white part now. You want to take your first band and pull it through the first two bands. Then you want to pick up these two bands again and you want to kind of fold them over or drop it over your hook. You're still holding on to the other side. You want to cross your colored band over the white band, over those two white bands, and then you want to grab these two white bands, remove them off of your hook, but you're still holding on to them, and then you want to put them back on your hook. Now for my orange, I'm gonna pull this band through the first two bands, pick up these two bands again, and I'm going to drop the orange band up and over my hook, and then I'm still holding on to this side, and I want to cross this color band over to the right, over these white bands, and I want to remove the white band and drop the orange band onto here, and then I want to put my border bands back on my hook. We're going to be doing 6 of these on each side, 6 of these colored bands. So next I'm going to pull my yellow band through, pick up the 2 border bands, and take the third band and drop it over my hook. I'm still holding on to this side. I'm going to cross it over my white bands to the right, and I'm going to grab a hold of these 2 border bands and I'm going to drop that colored band, and then I'm going to place them back on my hook. Same goes for green. I'm going to pull that through the first 2 bands, pick those 2 bands back up, drop the third band over my hook. Still holding onto the other side, you're going to cross it over those 2 white bands to the right, grab a hold of these white bands, drop that green band here, and place your border bands back on. Now I'm down to my 2 color bands. And again, we're going to pull this through the first 2 bands, pick up those 2 bands back up again, drop the third band up and over, or fold it over those 2 bands, 2 border bands, then fold this band or cross this band over those 2 white bands to the right. Grab a hold of these white bands, drop that blue band there so it stays there, and you want to place your 2 bands back on. And my last color band for this side, gonna pull it through the first 2, pick up the first 2 again, fold the third band over the first and second, and still holding onto the side, cross this side over the 2 border bands to the right, grab these bands, and you want to release that purple band and put these border bands back on your hook. We have to do the same on the other side, so just slide your bands down. Oh, by the way, you guys, you have to rearrange these. You have to take this band and cross it out like that, because we want them rearranged. Same with this side. So red band goes through the first 2 bands, pick up the 2 border bands, drop the third band over your hook or fold it over those 2 bands, still holding on to this side, cross this band over the 2 white border bands to the right, grab your 2 border bands, release that color band, and place your border bands back on. Same with orange, pull it through the first 2 bands, pick those 2 bands back up again, fold the 3rd band over the 1st and 2nd, and then cross the band you were holding on to over your 2 border bands, and you want to grab your border band and release that band and place the border bands back on. Grab your 3rd band for this side, pull it through the first 2 bands, pick up the border bands again, fold the 3rd band over your hook, over the 1st and 2nd bands, and then grab the other side of that band you pulled through and cross it over your border bands to the right. And you want to grab your border bands and you want to release that yellow band and place your border bands back on. Same with green. Pull it through the first 2 bands, pick up the 2 outside border bands, fold the 3rd band over the 1st and 2nd, still holding onto this band here, cross it over your border bands to the right, grab your border bands and release your green band and put your border bands back on. Same with the blue and purple. Pull it through the first 2 bands, fold the 3rd band up and over your hook or over those 1st and 2nd bands. Still holding onto that band, you're going to cross it over your border bands to the right. You kind of want to let go of it, and then you want to grab your border bands, both of them, and you want to release that blue band and put your border bands back on. Last color band for this side, which would be purple. Pull it through the first 2 bands, fold the 3rd band over the 1st and 2nd, over your hook, still holding onto that band, cross that band over your 2 border bands to the right. As you remove your border bands off of your hook, you want to release that purple band down there and then put your border bands back on. Now for the next part, we're going to be attaching these color bands. I want to use the same color, so I'm going to pull this band through the first 3 bands. I'm going to skip the first 2 bands, pick up the outside band and reattach and then rearrange. Grab another band, pull it through the first 4 bands, skip the first band, pick up bands 2 and 3, and reattach. You're just going to close it. Do the same on the other side. Make sure these 2 bands are rearranged. Pull your first band through the first 3 bands, skip the first 2 bands, pick up the outside band and reattach and rearrange. Pull your next band through the first 4 bands, skip the first band, pick up the next 2 and reattach. Now, the next 2 bands that I'm going to be attaching are these bands here. And I'm still going to be using white for that. So I'm just going to pull 1 band through the first 4 and close. Same for the other side. Pull it through the first 4 and close. And basically you've made one of these. So to begin your new sequence, you need to cross this band over this band, or this band over this band, doesn't matter. And I'm still going to be using white. So your first band for the sequence, pull it through the first two. Skip the first band, pick up the outside loop, and reattach. Your second band, pull it through the first two, skip the first loop, pick up the outside loop, and reattach. You want to do that until you have 12 loops on your hook. For the other side, you're going to pull your first band through the first two, and then you want to skip the first band, pick up the outside loop, and reattach. Second band, pull it through the first two, skip the first loop, pick up the outside loop, and reattach, and keep going. Okay. Next, we have to pull a band through the first 12 bands. Still gonna be using white. And you want to skip the first two bands, pick up the middle four, skip the next two, and pick up your border bands and reattach. And rearrange. You're gonna grab your third band and drop it over your hook. Do the same on the other side. It's time for us to attach our color bands again, or whatever colors you like. Obviously, I'm back to my red. Oh, before we do that, guys, we need to rearrange these two bands, so cross this band over or move it out. Same with this. Okay, so grab your first color band and pull it through the first two bands, fold the third band over the first and second and over your hook, and the other side you're going to cross that over your two border bands to the right, and you're going to grab a hold of these two bands and release the color band and put your border bands back on. Well, technically these bands are not going to be your border bands because we're going to be adding a border later on. Next, we're going to pull a band through the first two bands, pick those two bands back again, and you want to fold the third band over your hook, and you want to, you're still holding on to the other side, you want to cross that over the two bands to the right, and you want to grab a hold of your border bands and release the color band and put your border bands back on. Third band, pull it through the first two bands, pick up your border bands, fold the third band up and over your hook, and you want to cross this band over the two bands to the right, grab a hold of your border bands and release that band while you're doing it, and put your border bands back on. Same with the green, pull it through the first two bands, pick up your border bands and then you want to fold your third band up and over your hook. You're still holding on to that side. You want to cross that band over to the right. Grab a hold of your border bands, and while you do that, take it off of your hook and release that green band. Put your bands back on, your border bands. Next, grab your band and you're going to pull it through the first 2 bands. You're going to pick up those 2 bands again. You're going to fold the third band up and over your hook and over those first and second bands, and you're going to take the other side of that band and you're going to cross it over these 2 bands here, or border bands, and to the right, and you want to grab a hold of these border bands and release that color band and put these border bands back on. Same with the purple band, pull it through the first 2, pick up the first 2, fold the third band up and over your hook, still holding onto the other side, cross the band over your border bands to the right, grab a hold of your border bands, release your color band and put your border bands back on. And you want to do the same on the other side. Red again for me, pull it through the first 2 bands and reclaim those 2 bands again. Fold the third band up and over your hook, and the other side that you were holding on to, cross it over those 2 border bands to the right. Grab your 2 border bands and release that color band and put your border bands back on. Sorry guys, I was a bit slow there. Grab your next band, pull it through the first 2 bands, pick up those 2 bands back on, fold the third band over the first and second and over your hook. So you want to cross that over your 2 border bands, and you want to grab a hold of your 2 border bands and you want to release that color band. And my yellow, I'm gonna pull it through the first 2, reclaim those 2 again, fold the third band up and over your hook or over those first and second bands, and the other side you're still holding onto it. Cross them over your border bands to the right, get a hold of your border bands and release that band down there and put your border bands back on. My green band, pull it through the first 2, pick those 2 back up again, fold the third band over your hook, you're still holding on to that band, cross that band over the 2 border bands to the right, and you want to grab a hold of your border bands, your 2 border bands, drop that green band down, and you want to reattach those 2 border bands again. Blue, pull it through the first 2, reclaim those 2 again, fold the third band up and over your hook, cross the band that you pulled through over your border bands, grab your border bands and release the color band and put your border bands back on. My last color band for the side, pulling it through the first 2, picking up those 2 again, fold the third band up and over your hook or over the first and second bands, and still holding onto the other side, you're gonna cross that over your 2 border bands, and you want to grab a hold of your border bands and you want to release that colored band, and you want to place your border bands back on. Next, I'm gonna grab my white band here I'm gonna pull it through the first 3 bands. I'm gonna skip the first 2 bands, and I'm gonna pick up the outside band and reattach, and then rearrange. Move this out. Next, I'm gonna pull it through the first 4 bands, skip the first band, pick up the 2 in the middle, and reattach. We'll do the same on the other side. Pull it through the first 3 bands, skip the first 2 bands, pick up the outside band and reattach, then rearrange. Then you want to pull your next band through the first 4 bands, skip the first band, pick up the 2 in the middle, reattach. I'm still using white. Pull 1 band through the first 4 bands and reattach. You don't need to pick up anything. Same with the other side. Pull your band for this side through the first 4 bands and reattach. And that's how it would look like. You will need to attach a C-clip onto these 4 bands here, just to hold them temporarily. So for the border band, you guys, which would be this for me, the pink lemonade and the Caribbean green, I'm just also going to be using white. So go back to the bottom of your bracelet, and you will have 2 loops here, which is your cap band. What you want to do is stick your hook in through this way instead of that way. Stick your hook in through this way through the cap band, and grab a border band and pull 1 band through it. Next, you want to take one of your colored bands here, place it on your hook, and you want to take another border band and pull a band through the 3 on your hook. You want to skip the first band and you want to pick up the next band, and you're just gonna close it. Go to your next color, and by the way, you guys, we're not picking up this loop or this loop, we're picking up the long ones, not the short ones. I don't really know what you would call them except loops. You're picking up these ones here, these ones here, this one, this one. You're not picking up the mini loops here, mini loop here, mini loop here. There's a 3rd one, a long one right here. Okay, so next, my orange band. Place it back on your hook. This time you're gonna pull it through the 4 bands, skip the first 2 bands, pick up the 3rd band and reattach. Next, picking up this long loop here, pull a border band through the first 4 bands, skip the first 2 bands, pick up the 3rd and reattach. Green band, pull it through the 4 bands, skip the first 2 bands, pick up the 3rd, reattach. Then you want to pick up this blue band here. You're going to pull it through the first 4 bands, or just the 4 bands on your hook. Skip the first 2 bands, pick up the 3rd and reattach. So pick that loop up and place it back on your hook. Pull a border band through the first, no, just pull a border band through the 4 bands on your hook. Pick up the 3rd band and reattach. Go in through your next section and grab your border band and pull a band through the 4. Skip the first 2. Pick up the 3rd band and close it. Next band. Pull a border band through the first 4. Skip the first 2. Pick up the 3rd. Close. Pick up this long loop here. Pull your border band through the first 4, skip the first 2, pick up the 3rd band and just close the band you pulled through, or reattach the band you pulled through. Make sure you're only grabbing these one at a time. Grab your colored band and grab your border band, pull it through the first 4 bands, skip the first 2, pick up the 3rd band and close. Same goes for blue. Pulling it through the first 4 bands, skip the first 2, pick up the 3rd, close, and purple. Pulling it through the first 4 bands, pick up the 3rd band and close. And you're gonna keep doing that until you make a border for these things here, for these colored bands. And you are going to do the same on the other side. You would stick your hook, not through here, but here, this loop, and you're gonna come in from this way out, this way. So this loop here, you're gonna come out like that, and then just go up and just basically do what we are doing on this side on the other side. Now guys, I will be going off camera, just do that all the way to the top and I will show you how to close it off. So once you have made it to the top of your bracelet and you've completed your border bands, you will end with 3 bands on each side, so 3 here and 3 here. What you will need to do is pull 1 band through these 3 and these 3. So now you have 2 or 4 loops on your hook. To close it off, you will need to remove the first 2 bands, still holding onto them. And then you need to pick up the 4 bands that you put onto that C-clip earlier and put them back on your hook. And now put these 2 bands back on your hook. And then you can remove your C-clip. Okay, so now you have 6 bands on your hook. What you need to do next, I'm going to be using border band colors. And you want to cross this band over this band, or vice versa. Doesn't really matter. And then you want to pull a border band through the first 4. And then don't pick up anything, just reattach and do the same on the other side. Grabbing a border band, pulling that through the first 4. And just close. Now you have 4 bands on your hook. You can either attach a C-clip now onto these 4 bands, or you can grab 2 more bands and pull them through these bands, or you can do this. You can remove this band but still hold onto it, and then you're going to grab the 3rd or last band, and you're going to drop it over your hook, and you want to place the band you were holding back on. Slide your bands to the other side, and then you want to take the other side and drop it over your hook. So that's how it would look like, and then you can attach a C-clip to this. These two bands. So that is it, guys. Obviously you can come up with many different color schemes, but I chose the classic white and rainbow. And you can add more of these things on. You can add 8 to make it bigger. It would look like this. So this is like the regular size for 6, attaching 6 bands here, and this is what it would look like if you would attach 8. There you have it, your Dakila bracelet. Hope you guys found this video helpful. If you do make this design, please hashtag it Dakila Bracelet. Hope you guys subscribe. I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.